Welcome back to Asinine Radio, a weekly podcast where we talk about music, and, well, that's pretty much it. So, let's go!
This is Asinine Radio. This is the weekly music podcast where every week we get into a different band, different artist, and we break down one of their records. We get into, how it was made, the music, the lyrics, the artwork, and everything in between. My name is Tyler, and way out there, hundreds of miles away, is Jeff. While you're listening, go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, give us 5 stars and 5 stars only. Please go do that. All the social media is at Asinine Radio. Go follow us. We have a Discord. If you want to join that, let us know. We'll send you the link. And really, that's all I got for the boring intro. Thank you for listening. Really appreciate it. Thanks for all of you people out there who have reached out. And, that's cool. Thanks for listening.
That's cool.
That's all I have. That's what I got for the boring intro.
No, that was cool.
What are we doing today, Jeff?
We're doing Herb Alpert and his record, Whipped Cream and Other Delights.
That we are. We are doing this. This is his 4th record from 1965, right? Yeah, 1965.
Yes.
So Herb Alpert, kind of a unique one. We've come off of a lot of big heavy hitters in the music industry. Not to say he's small, because he's sold over like 72 million records worldwide.
Started a fucking label, just iconic.
Started a label.
Like maybe one of the heaviest of hitters, but
But nobody's ever heard of him. Unless like you're really into just kind of like world music or really into music in general. You're not going to know who Herb Alpert is. Now, if you hear the song Spanish Flea, everyone's heard that song. But that song is not on the record we're doing today. We're doing Whipped Cream and Other Delights from him.
Yeah.
Like I said, 4th record from 1965.
A lot of things here. Just repeating a lot of things there, aren't you?
I didn't say that part, though, that we're doing Whipped Cream.
Oh, I said it, but that's fine.
Oh, you did? I'm sorry. Yeah, you did.
Don't be sorry.
I know. I'm sorry. Sorry again. I'm going to say it again.
Just going to repeat things twice.
Let's get into this. Let's start with your origin story with Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass.
I actually thought we usually start the episodes off with 6 Degrees of Tom DeLonge. That's not a big deal. We can just skip it. I did my homework here, but we're going to skip it.
You did? Okay, I didn't do it, but normally we do that when we do the rankings episode, but we didn't do a rankings episode today. But if you got one, go for it.
All right. So there we go. Herb Alpert's last gold record was in the 80s, and it featured Janet Jackson on backup vocals.
Okay.
And then from Janet...
Weird.
she was signed to A&M. So.
Oh, that's true. She was. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Janet has worked with Justin Timberlake in music and other things. And then with Justin, it was easy because Justin's worked with Snoop and he's worked with Lil Wayne. So Lil Wayne to Blink.
Oh, that is easy.
Travis to Blink. So easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Very good. Very good. Speaking of Blink, real quick, Matt Skiba has been doing a lot of like podcasts over the last couple weeks. And obviously people ask him about Blink, and you and I have talked about this off the pod, but like, he's still really good friends with Mark and Travis. And like a podcast he did yesterday, he was like, yeah, I talk to Tom all the time too. I talked to him just 2 days ago. We were talking on the phone. And I thought, damn, dude, that's so cool that they're all homies. Like there's no bad blood. I think that's so rad.
Well, I
just wanted to bring that up.
I think there's no bad blood because Skeebs is a good dude. I think if Skeebs wasn't a good dude about it, even if he was just a normal dude about it, right? Because he's taking this way better than any like you or I would take for sure. So
yeah,
he's just a really, really good dude, and that's why there's no bad blood.
Yeah, it's really cool though. I honestly believe now, after everything's said and done, I think there's going to be a day where Skiba's going to come out for at least a couple songs and play with the band. And they're going to play as a 4-piece. It's going to happen. If there's ever
like a bill that has Alkaline Trio and Blink on the same bill, like that's going to happen.
Can you imagine if they did like a tour together, Alkaline Trio and Blink tour?
That'd be amazing.
That would be and it'd be cool too because like Adam Willard's with Alkaline Trio now too. That'd be sick.
And then what if they played Angel songs, like Angels and Airwaves songs too?
Oh, that'd be sick. But it was just Tom and Adam.
Oh, and Mark on bass though.
No, nobody on bass, just them two. Make it even dumber. No delay either. Anyway.
That was my 6 degrees.
Back to Herb Alpert.
Origin stories.
Origin story, yeah. Let's get into it. Yeah, origin story with Herb Alpert and Tijuana Brass.
Gotcha. I don't remember the first time I saw this album cover. I've seen it before in like thrift stores and stuff. I had no fucking idea who Herb Alpert was until we started collecting vinyl. And then that's when I really noticed how annoying this record is. It's in my hand too. I have mine out so I can look at it and reference it.
I'm gonna grab mine too.
And so I had no idea how annoying it was because you see it everywhere. It's fucking everywhere, and it's always in the dollar bins, and it's always in every collection that you get. Whether or not you're buying it for yourself or if you're at a record store and people are bringing it in, and it's just because it's always available and it's always just dirt cheap, you just assume that it's not good. Well, then when we started collecting, I listened to it, and then we listened to it, and it's pretty fucking good. Like, it's pretty goddamn good. And there's a reason it sold millions of copies. And there's a reason that A&M was highly successful for many years. Because Herb Alpert is a fucking genius. Jerry Moss is a fucking genius. And this record rips.
Yes, I agree with you. I remember seeing the album cover all the time, throughout the years. And because it really is an iconic cover. But also the song Spanish Flea. Hearing that on various TV shows, and I still listen to it a lot. Tim Conway Jr. on a local radio station here. He used to play the Spanish Flea song all the time on the radio broadcast. So it's like I've always known that song. Never knew who it was until we started collecting vinyl. And like you said, it was something you always saw in the dollar bin, and it's just like you got to pick it up. It's iconic, first of all, and second, it's a great fucking record. And it's cheap as hell. Like this is a record that belongs in everybody's collection. It doesn't even have to be a good copy. Like I don't have a very good copy.
Neither
Plays
do
through
I.
fine.
I didn't even know I had a shitty copy until this week when I listened to it again.
Mine played through. It has surface noise, but it's not overpowering. But yeah, definitely it doesn't skip or loop or anything. But I mean, for $1, I paid $1 for mine too. But it's always around. Like the first 4 or 5 Herb Alpert records are always available.
See, I go back to the Lonely Bull, his first record. I go back to that one way more often than I do Whipped Cream, because his first record, I fucking love it even more than this one. This one's great, but his first one is just very, very mariachi driven, very Spanish sounding.
Yeah.
And I love that record a lot. And I have that one in the vinyls too, and I have a really clean copy of that one. So I do go back to that one quite often. I would say once every 2 or 3 months. I will still throw that on in the midst of a jazz sesh. If I'm spinning jazz vinyl, I'll throw that one on. But I'm going to spin this one more.
It's a great record. Too. Before my giant purge, I did have Whipped Cream, I had Lonely Bull, and I had Going Places. I purged Lonely Bull and Going Places. Not to say that they're bad, because they are really good records, but honestly, after listening to just one of his records, I don't really want to listen to another one after. And Whipped Cream, to me, out of those 3, Whipped Cream is the best. I'm not really into mariachi as much as you are, and Whipped Cream is the first record he did that was kind of strayed a little bit away from the mariachi stuff. Which in another thing is that he wasn't even Mexican. He's not even Spanish. He's Jewish. His parents are from Ukraine and Romania.
Yeah.
It's just his background, I think, is really, really cool, and how he just took the style just because he loved it so much. He went down to Tijuana and he saw some bullfighting, and he loved the culture down there, and he loved the music especially. And he was already a trumpeter. He'd been playing trumpet since he was a kid. And he went to school. He went to USC here in California. He was in the band there. And music has been a part of his whole life, and his parents and his whole family played music. But yeah, it was when he went to Tijuana and was around that culture, he just fell in love with it. And that's why we have this record and these records, honestly. But yeah, this Jewish kid with immigrant parents.
It's why we have this record. It's why we have A&M. It's why we have just so many major acts. It's why it's why a lot of independent record labels still exist today, because A&M achieved what every independent record label wants to achieve, and eventually got bought out. But A&M was fucking huge. They went from nothing to having everything. Yeah,
they started in Herb Alpert's garage, him and Gary Moss. They co-founded that label in 1962, I believe. Yeah, out of Herb Alpert's garage. It's crazy. And then it blew up, and Man, you look at the roster that's been on A&M Records up until 1989. Like, but I'm just talking before they got bought out in 1989. Their roster before that was some of the heaviest hitters in music. I mean, the Police were on there. Janet Jackson was on there. I mean, just people in their prime. Whether or not you like those bands or artists, I mean, they were seriously just on top of the world. And not only that, they didn't just do pop music or rock music. They were into jazz. Like they had various imprints. Like eventually they had various imprints, but yeah, they were just kind of all over the place when it came to genres.
Yeah, that's unique wild.
Too.
It was wild.
Yeah, definitely. But anyway, let's since we got the origin story, some background there. What are your initial thoughts on whipped cream and other delights?
I mean, so like it's an instrumental. It's a jazz based kind of output here. That's really what it is at its core. That's what Herb Alpert is at its core. And so there's no vocals, and that's nice. There's no like lyrics you really get into, so that's also kind of nice. And it's it's not just like jazz music. It's like jazz standards. So it's just the most generic kind of jazz music, and that's fine because it's all good. So it's not super complex. And then they had the Wrecking Crew, right?
Yeah.
Play with this album and this band, and that's fine because I've come to both like appreciate the Wrecking Crew and then also realize that the Wrecking Crew are, man, I don't know how to put this like in a way that doesn't sound mean, but like the Wrecking Crew are less musicians and more like construction workers, kind of like they do not fucking they just don't fucking care about the music. They just want money.
Hence the name Wrecking Crew.
Yeah, and that's fine. That's 100% fine. That's okay. Which like the whole Wrecking Crew name too. There's only like one person that even like claims that was what they called that group throughout like its tenure. Everybody else in the Wrecking Crew, quote unquote, even like Karaoke, everyone else has been like, nah, dude, no one ever fucking said that. I've never heard that before ever until the 90s. But yeah, the Wrecking Crew they're to say they're hired guns is one thing, because like hired gun kind of implies like, oh, this guy likes playing music, and so then let's have him do this for us real quick. But the Wrecking Crew just play the same shit over and over and over because that's what they are paid to do, and that's what they do best. Is saying like, hey, I can play a lot of genres of music, and I can play it pretty fucking good to where people like it. But it's just like, man, dude, Karaoke's bass, like she's played on thousands of recordings. Fucking thousands of recordings. I think
what it comes down to,
Ron Carter, like the two like most prolific bass players of all time. But everything sounds the fucking same when they're doing it for the paycheck like this. There's no feeling whatsoever.
In the end, they're just really good at reading sheet music. That's what they're best at. Not to say that that's not a knock to them at all. They just know how to read music really well. They
create. They do create. So this album specifically, Herb Alpert. Specifically. So okay, just like backtrack a little bit.
He arranged it.
Well, he arranged what he wanted them to play, but he didn't know how to have them play in that style, right? So he said, "Hey, here's a cool bass line you can do, Karaoke, and the three other bass players that are on this album, but I don't know how to get the feel for A Taste of Honey, because there's like 4 bass players on this album." And that's when I really got into like, holy shit, man, like Herb Alpert is like, that's just where music was in the early 60s. That's fine. But like
common.
He was he had an idea. He said, I want you to play this, but I want you to play in this style. And that's where the Wrecking Crew came in about. Is yes, they can read sheet music. Yes, they can play any style, but it's up to like them personally to incorporate that into the music and make it so generic, make it so Foo Fighters and then Muse accessible that everybody loves it. And so I guess that is kind of genius there, but I feel like that is just, that's kind of gross.
But everybody used the Wrecking Crew. You know, it really started out with Phil Spector. That was like almost like his house band for all the artists he worked with. You know, and Brian Wilson used them. Like everybody in the 60s and 70s used the Wrecking Crew. I mean, that was who he went to. It
doesn't make it good or bad. It's just now I had this affinity for the Wrecking Crew for a little bit, and I was like, oh, these guys are so fucking good. But then like the more you listen to them, you're like, wow, they're not really so fucking good. They're so fucking good at making kind of like
at playing
Foo
to the
Fighters-esque music. Like nothing about them is like great. It's just
I guess like in modern terms, it's like playing to the algorithm. Like you see that in music now. Like there are people paid to learn the algorithms of music and what sells, and they base artists and they make artists make music that is going to sell on streaming sites or be streamed on streaming sites. And I feel like in the 60s and 70s, that's what the Wrecking Crew was. But
and it was just it's a lot easier to be Herb Alpert, right? To be Jerry Moss and say like, damn, we don't have a band yet. We have a bunch of ideas. We have a record we can put out. We have a couple songs that have already been released on like 7 inches that are doing really, really well. Let's just hire a bunch of people. Let's get it done in a fucking week. Call it a day. I get it. That's super easy.
Yeah.
Super convenient. That's where music was in the early 60s before it kind of transitioned into that Woodstock era singer-songwriter thing where bands in their claws was like, hey, if we sign to you, Atlantic or RCA, we're playing fucking all the instruments. So like when Zeppelin is signing these record labels or these contracts, they're saying if anyone's going to put a fucking mandolin in there, I'm playing it. Not like the Wrecking Crew. We're not hiring nobody else. That's just where music was. And like you bring up the Brian Wilson thing and like, that's a huge thing. Like even Brian Wilson was like, dude, I don't trust my bandmates. Therefore, Pet Sounds is going to be all hired guns. And so like you can now, and it's taken years for this to like fully come out and be like common knowledge. Only the true Yeds like knew about it before, but in recent years it's come out and it's like, dude, everybody that was in the Beach Boys had like almost nothing to do with Pet Sounds aside from a little bit of writing credits and just some vocal parts. Everything else was like people that they hired. Because they were touring. They were just too busy, and Brian had all these fucking ideas that he couldn't quite they're all like just ideas. He had nothing concrete, and so he hired people to come in and kind of reel it in a little bit, Brian, there, and then they released this masterpiece, arguably the greatest record that has ever existed. But
I still don't have a copy of Pet Sounds. It's crazy, I know.
I think I honestly think that like sonically and what it did for music, so sonically and just reputation wise, I think Pet Sounds is the greatest album that has ever existed.
I mean, it is great. It really is, but I still stand by Sgt. Pepper's.
No, that's not even in the same.
I really do.
You could have said Revolver, and I would have entertained that notion.
I mean, Revolver is amazing too.
Sgt. Pepper's really has every year Sgt. Pepper's goes down more and more and more and down the toilet for me.
You're insane, dude. I'm not even like a big Beatles guy. I'm not even a big Beatles guy.
Your two favorite bands are Beatles and Muse. Like those are the two fanboy things you do. Beatles and Muse.
I was surprised last week when we did Radiohead with Skip. Skip loves Abbey Road. Do you remember him saying that?
I do not remember saying that.
He said it, and I just went, I don't know about that. And then you guys just kept talking. I think you missed it because I think if you heard it, you would have said something. But yeah, he said he was talking about like how Abbey Road's a masterpiece. He said Abbey Road is a masterpiece.
I will say though, Abbey Road is for sure better than Sgt. Pepper's. Abbey Road is for sure better than most of the Beatles stuff.
You bumped your head. That's okay.
Dude, Sgt. Pepper's is not that good. It's
a fucking amazing record.
It's all fucking
no, it's
fluff.
Not. It is not.
Magical Mystery Tour is better than Sgt. Pepper's.
Actually, I listened to Magical Mystery Tour last night.
It's fucking good.
I haven't listened to it since I got the record. And
I ranked that my number one when we did the Beatles.
Yeah, that's even wild. Dumber. That's even dumber. It's a great record. It's top 5. Yes,
it's wild,
but it's not number one. Nothing is better than Rubber Soul. Rubber Soul is one of the greatest records ever made, hands down.
Yeah, it's top 1,000. I give it that. So
it's
anyway,
a top 3 record.
All right. So anyways, yeah.
Talking about Herb Alpert,
Whipped Cream, Other Delights, Herb Alpert, him and his. Because we're going to talk a lot about the A&M history because there's not a lot to do with this record here.
Or just a lot of the extracurriculars. I mean, every song on here is a cover. It is a cover. Herb Alpert didn't write any of these songs.
No.
He just gave it its own flair. He played the trumpet on it. The trumpet leads essentially every song. There are a couple songs that are more bass led with like those really fucking walking bass lines, but yeah, otherwise it's all trumpet led. But then also after listening to the record this week, this is just like pop. This is like pop jazz. That's what this is. Like nothing about these songs are complicated at all. They're all pretty straightforward songs. Nobody really shines on the on these songs. This really is the Foo Fighters of jazz music.
Yeah.
Even Herb Alpert's trumpet playing is not. It's not like it's not even near Miles Davis level.
No,
it's pretty run of the mill stuff. It's very straightforward. He never really is outrageous. He never takes any chances, and that's fine. You don't have to do that. And I still think this record's amazing. But yeah, there's nothing truly spectacular about this record, but it's a ton of fun, and it's only 30 minutes long. Yeah. 28 minutes long. 20 fucking minutes long. 12 songs. Every song is about 2 minutes or less. It's straight into the point, and I love it. It's just a good album to put on when you're just feeling kind of good. You kind of want it on in the background. That's what you throw it on. It's great.
I think it's just fascinating to see that Herb Alpert pretty much like cut his teeth right at USC, because he was like the marching band at USC. That's where he really honed his thing in. But then, like, by all accounts, he took a trip to Tijuana. Like, dude, he took a trip to get fucked up, right, with his homies. Yeah. That's why he went to TJ. So like Herb Alpert goes to TJ to get fucked up for the weekend. Yeah. Like, witnesses some bullfights, and he's probably drunk, and he's like, dude, this is fucking amazing. I love this culture. And then, like, overall, all that stuff is kind of like ended and started by like a trumpet player. That's how I don't know, because I'm just assuming here based on the stories, but that's how like the bullfight starts, right? The trumpet player, and they get released, and that's how it ends. And he's hearing that. He's like, oh, I'm a trumpet player. That's a cool fucking sound, but it's a little off key. I don't like that note. So what Herb Alpert does is he goes and he multi-tracks his own trumpet playing. And he just does a little bit fucking off key. It just, like a C, then like a C sharp and a C minor, then just overdubs it like that, but puts like the natural C in the front, and then he gets that nice fucking sound. And he's doing it all himself. And so him and Jerry Moss, because Jerry Moss helped me write all these songs, they have this attachment to this music, and they don't want to pay somebody else to release it because they don't want to give up the masters. So then what do? They start their own record company. And that's fucking cool, dude. That's what like punkers do, right? And like these guys did it in 62 out of their garage with just like a phone line, and that's it, and a piano. That's all that was in their fucking garage.
So cool. So cool. I feel like it's way easier to do it back then than it would be now. I mean, obviously nowadays because of all the streaming, but even like in the 90s before the Napster stuff, like everything was so corporate, so conglomerate corporation. But like in the early 60s, late 50s, early 60s, like starting your own label was just, it didn't seem like it was that difficult to do. But then have it blow up the way this did, that's insane. It's fucking insane. And they held the right, like they owned the company from 1962 until 1989 when they sold it to Interscope. And this was crazy to me. They sold it to Interscope for $500 million in 1989. And then there was like a breach of contract or something like that.
Yeah, they get fucking paid.
Interscope had to end up paying them an extra $200 million for the company. And then after that, it pretty much, Interscope ran it to the ground. Mix that with, the
Seagram's bought streaming.
It too. What did?
Seagram's, the rum, the fucking cocktail
the vodka
thing. Yeah.
Really?
Seagram's bought it. Because Seagram's, the company Seagram's eventually sold to UMG or Sony, whatever it was, who owns them now. Yeah. But yeah, they bought them at one point, and so yeah, they were in charge of it for decades, and up until 2020, the logo, the A&M like iconic logo, it was the same fucking logo from 62 to 2020. Yeah. Like it's the same logo, it just never changed, and even then, like it still has that little trumpet. Like that little trumpet is what really makes A&M like A&M, and it's so rad. That's cool.
I read too that even though, because the company was dissolved or went defunct officially like in 1999, I believe it was, and so that the label, the A&M label never showed up until later in the 2010s when they started to bring it back just as a brand. That logo disappeared except for Sting, because Sting and the Police were on A&M Records in the 70s and 80s. And he was the only artist to keep that actual logo on his records after the whole label went defunct. And I thought that was super cool. Like it was like an homage to like a different time, and to like, it was like a respect thing, showing respect to the guys that gave the Police a chance back in the 70s. And I thought that was super cool. I mean, Sting is like arguably one of the biggest artists in the world. Like you cannot deny that. He's one of the biggest artists in the world. And for him to do that kind of shit, that's huge. It's fucking huge.
Yeah. But like that's out of respect to Herb Alpert, because everybody loved him, and everybody loved Jerry Moss even more. when he died more recently. Oh, so like,
in 2021.
Yeah, A&M eventually sold the site. So like the Los Angeles site now is Jim Henson's Muppet company, whatever it is.
Yeah, Jim Henson Studios.
Jim Henson Studios. And after Jerry Moss died, they had like a party there, and then like hundreds of people showed up, just like executives and random people in the music industry showed up to like the wake. I don't know what you call it when you're having like a party. Is it called a wake?
Yeah, it'd be the wake. Yeah,
the wake. And like everybody showed up just to like pay homage to this guy that like started careers. And also like A&M in the beginning stages, like we talk about pressings, right? Different pressing plants, like Monarch Records is like the one people want their shit pressed at in LA because that's like the best. And at the time, Monarch only pressed mono albums on the styrene stuff, and then stereo albums were pressed on vinyl. And
what's styrene?
It's just a different. I'm not exactly sure the chemical compound, like difference between styrene and like actual like polyvinyl, but there is a difference. And for whatever reason, it was cheaper. It was easier for the mono albums to be pressed on the styrene. But Herb Alpert was like, no, dude, fuck that. We are using Monarch because you're the best, but I want my mono shit pressed on the vinyl, like the polyvinyl that we now know as vinyl. I want all my stuff pressed on vinyl because it's better quality and it sounds better. And so like Herb Alpert was the first person to kind of make that change, make that change from mono albums onto vinyl rather than that styrene shit.
And is styrene what 78s are pressed on? The old 78s?
I think that's shellac.
Is that the really brittle material?
Yeah, that's like shellac stuff that like you drop on the floor and it like shatters into a million like knives.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's like when you watch like an old like Three Stooges. Whenever they break records, that's like what it is.
Yeah, they explode.
They break records over
snap them in half. They like explode. Yeah, I don't know exactly what makes styrene different than vinyl, except that styrene is just nobody wanted it, and it eventually got phased out. Maybe it was too expensive. I don't know. But I do know that there's a chemical difference between styrene and vinyl itself. And Herb Alpert was like the first person to say, no, dude, I don't want that shit. I want the good stuff on all my records because I want them to sound great.
I like that. I mean, and when you think about it, dude, we have these records from, I think mine's like for a 1963 press. It's not an original, but either way, dude, we got these records that are 60 years old.
Yeah.
That shit's insane when you think about it. These records are 60 years old and they still sound, for being a $1 record, these sound really good.
Yeah.
After all these years, and who knows how many hands they've gone through and how poorly they've been treated, these particular records.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And they've stood the test of time, like 60 fucking years, and this shit's still working okay. It's cool, man.
Dude, A&M was just like, that was like the record label back in the 60s all the way to like the 80s. Mm-hmm. Dude, they signed fucking Waylon Jennings after Buddy Holly had died and before Waylon Jennings really got popular as a country artist, and he was still kind of like moseying around. Like A&M signed him. They said, "Yeah, dude, we'll give you some money," and then eventually, signed over to RCA, I think, and then became a country star. But yeah, he was on A&M too.
Just everybody was on. I mean, just the biggest of the biggest acts were on A&M throughout those 3 decades. It's crazy, man. You could throw them up there with. I can't even think of any other big records right now or big labels right now.
You could throw like Universal anything. Like A&M may be like the biggest, best, most influential independent record label that has ever existed.
And I was reading something too. I didn't do too much research into it, but did they put out movies too, right?
Dude, they revolutionized like putting out movies and using the artist like a full soundtrack for the movie, right? So like silent movies or whatever, when they became like normal movies where there's sound, and now like an artist is writing the score to the entire movie. A&M kind of like revolutionized that concept where now it's a musician writing for the entire movie rather than just like individual songs or whatever that may be.
Yeah. That's cool, man.
So
that's really cool. And I think oh man, what did I read it? When they were bought out and then they were eventually absorbed by like various labels, I think their jazz section, the jazz catalog got absorbed by Verve Records. Is that right? Something like that? I mean, Verve is like the biggest jazz label, arguably the biggest jazz label around. Yeah. That's cool. I don't know. There's so many little things like that I think are just fascinating.
I mean, they made again, like you said earlier, it doesn't matter if you like the band or not. And at this point, like, who gives a shit about the Sandpipers, right? And that album, Guantanamera, like, nobody fucking cares. That's dollar bin shit. But back in like 1965, though, like, that was making money, dude. Like, that was fucking popular. That was selling millions of copies. And that's A&M had them. A&M like signed Wes Montgomery, and Wes Montgomery made a bunch of fucking money for them. And like the Baja Marimba band, Julius Wechter, who played the marimba for Herb Alpert, went off and did his own thing and became wildly successful at it. Like Sergio Mendes, they had Sergio Mendes at some point. They had Burt Bacharach, dude, like unreal
huge
names,
jazz names.
Huge fucking names in the 60s.
Huge jazz names, yeah.
And these guys aren't just like making money; they're winning Grammys, right? Back when like maybe Grammys actually meant something. These guys are winning Grammys. Whipped Cream won 4 Grammys in the same year.
It's crazy.
Hello?
Well, and another thing too was that this record, Whipped Cream, was number 1 on the Billboard, or at the time it was like the pop album Billboard.
Beat the Beatles.
Yeah, they beat the Beatles, they beat Rolling Stones, and they beat Frank Sinatra. They beat all 3 of them, or this record beat all 3 of them. That's in 1965 and 66. That is like the height of Beatlemania.
Yeah,
and for this record to beat it, that's insanity, man. And another thing I wanted to touch upon was that like all the various genres that they worked with, dude, they signed the Sex Pistols after the Sex Pistols got dropped by EMI. So they were so good at marketing that they knew like the Sex Pistols were the next big thing, and they really played on that. So they signed the Sex Pistols, and then a few days later they put on this like press conference where they did like a mock like signing of a contract in front of Buckingham Palace.
Yep.
Like it's like you that's just it's a genius marketing move. It really is. And they were 15 years into this in 77? Yeah, 15 years.
Yeah.
And they're pulling shit like this. But then, some of the other big bands, I mean, you mentioned a bunch of them, but like Peter Frampton, arguably one of the biggest guys in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
Joe Cocker's another one. Carole King, huge. They had deals with Cheech and Chong. Like the biggest comedy act in the 70s, easily.
And that was,
it was crazy.
Like the 70s was fucking wild. And I actually found like a cool website that kind of like broke down a lot of A&M stuff, and it was fun to read. But the 70s were just absolutely wild. And there was this, like 70s really hit like that payola thing, right? Like everybody realized, oh, fuck. Like I'm hearing this song on the radio so much because the guy is giving K-Rock a fuck ton of money to play the song so much. And like now it's all coming out. But one guy in particular, Charlie Miner, who A&M had contracted through and asked him to help promote some of like the Joe Cocker stuff, especially, and get their stuff on the radio. And I guess Charlie Miner was like the best of all time at it. This dude just like, he would just send Rolexes to fucking, I don't know the people in the 70s, but like he would just send Rolexes to Ronnie Bingenheimer, like people like him in the 70s.
That's who I was thinking of.
He would just send fucking presents. And then if they were not married, he would like literally just send boatloads of hookers. Every Friday night you get a hooker. Boom, boom, boom. And that's what he did. And he never said it was for anything. He never said, oh, I'm sending you this because I want you to play this, or I'm sending you this because I want this. Just fucking did it. Just did it. And he threw like these wild parties, and everybody in Hollywood was invited. And it was wild, dude. The 70s were wild. He eventually got killed by one of his mistresses, but got shot in his own house.
I didn't know that. Holy shit.
But yeah, it was a fucking wild time. And it's fun to read about like wild times in music history.
Yeah, I think it would have we've talked about it in the past or on other episodes where just like if you can go back in time and go to like an era of music to just kind of live through, or go to certain concerts like of bands in their primes, like early to mid 70s the rock scene must have been absolutely insane. Like the bands
feel like
you would have seen
trolling Sunset Strip in the 70s had to have been just fucking
early 70s
bonkers. Fuck, watching these massive bands when they're still just like filling out their riffs, right? When Guns N' Roses is just figuring out the riff to Paradise City before they even get the song together or whatever it is. Like that'd be fucking cool.
It would be insane. Go watching fucking Van Halen at the Whiskey.
Oof.
Can you imagine seeing Van Halen and the Whiskey in like what 1976, 75?
Dirty.
God, their first like couple shows at the Whiskey must have been watching David Lee Roth on that tiny little stage. That would, oh man, that would have been insane. Absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Or Jimi Hendrix at the Whiskey, because he played at the Whiskey back in the 60s.
I'm sure. Yeah, absolutely. Everybody played the Whiskey.
God, Jimi Hendrix. Can you? I mean, that's like another person. Like I can never, even if I lived during that time, I can never imagine seeing Jimi Hendrix live. Like he's too much of a celebrity, too much of a rock star that it's hard to believe that he was actually real.
Yeah,
it's weird.
Well, it's good.
He's one of those guys.
It's because we read so many articles and we hear so many podcasts and watch so many movies where they say Jimi Hendrix is God, right?
Yeah.
And like at a certain point, you stop seeing him as a person, but you see him as like an entity, a thing, like a brand, and he's not a person anymore. He's that guy who was God tier guitar player.
Yeah, it's
so he's not a person anymore. He really isn't. Like in The Sandlot, when they say legends fight, no, heroes get remembered, but legends never die. Yeah.
Babe Ruth.
Yeah, Babe Ruth said that.
Who's that guy? He was in an episode of Home Improvement, but he was in
that
other
guy
shit too. The guy who played Babe Ruth in The Sandlot. Oh. I forgot what else. He was in some other like popular shit in the 90s.
I don't remember. I remember coming out of the closet and smoking a cigar. And I was like, oh, fuck yeah. So dope.
Dude, that was like one of my favorite scenes in that whole movie.
Just so cool.
Was when he comes. It's so fucking cool, and just the way he talks, like the way that he talks in that scene, and the way James Earl Jones talks when he's talking to the two kids in the house.
Yeah,
like God, dude, just great actors.
Just so much wisdom, just exuding,
just selling the character.
Wisdom.
Just James Earl Jones selling that character was perfect. Like you couldn't have cast a better person to play that character.
Yeah,
he nailed it. But
that's true.
Anyway, what was I gonna say? Oh, I was thinking just now in my mind, like every time I go to an iconic venue, especially like the Whiskey, because that has like the biggest history. Whenever I'm there, I kind of like zone out and I kind of daydream and think about, man, dude, all the people who have been in this room that I'm literally in right now, that I admire so much, or that I think about constantly. Like when I saw Wednesday 13 there a couple months ago, I zoned out when another band was playing. I kind of zoned out and I was just thinking, dude, Led Zeppelin's been on that stage. Van Halen's been on that stage. Like all these, it's weird that I'm in the same room as these other guys, these other people, before they were even like legendary. I just think it's a weird thing. I don't know.
It really is a weird thing to think that a band is going from playing a stage, maybe like the first time playing there in front of 100 people, 50 people, Van Halen playing in front of 10 people. Then all of a sudden now he's a god. He's a brand. He's something it's weird to think that he even existed on this earth.
Yeah. He's another one of those guys. Him and David Lee Roth are those guys too, that if I were to ever meet them, I can't even think about meeting them because they're not real to me. Like Jimmy Page, Paul McCartney, they're not real to me. Like if I were to see them, I would like black out because they're not real. That's how massive
they're
too big.
They are. They are too big.
They're too big. Yeah. Like I can go meet Omar. I met Omar. I've met like people I really enjoy, like whose music I really enjoy, and that's fine. But yeah, meeting the legends like that, I can't even think about it.
I can't
stand it.
It's good.
Anyway, back to Herb Alpert.
Yeah.
That was
the songs. Do you have any songs? Do you have stinkers here?
Come on, dude. No stinkers.
Yeah,
there is one song that it's just like it's a little too big band, but it's still good, and that's Love Potion No. 9.
Oh,
that's my lowest banger, but it's still a great song.
I mean, like that song, right?
It just made me think. Maybe I do, or I just think of like old cartoons, like Looney Tunes cartoons, where it's like a cabaret singer and she's like kicking her leg out and like, you know what I'm talking about?
Okay, no, but
that's what.
Okay,
well, never mind.
I know the song very, very well. I know like the Searchers version because that came out in the 50s, and when I worked at Knott's Berry Farm on the boardwalk, they played a lot of 50s music, and that always played. And it's a good like doo-wop song. It's It's a good fucking song. I like the song a lot. And this is. I mean, I think all these songs are bangers. I really do, because they in their own individual way, in this genre of music and this timepiece. This is like set in stone. You know what I mean? This is like a period piece here. This is like we talked about the Barbie movie. The Barbie movie is like a definitive period piece of contemporary music or movies. This is like music in 1965. And Love Potion number 9, that's a banger.
What's cool about this record too, overall, is that it incorporates a lot of different things, not just jazz, but like specific subgenres of jazz. So there's like a lot of exotica here. There's big band stuff. There's more like vocal jazz, even though there's no vocals on it. There's a lot of different things going on subtly, and that's what I like about this record a lot too. You're not hearing the same song over and over again. So he did a good job of not just sequencing, but choosing the songs that are going to be on the record. Because he didn't write any of them. So,
dude, they won fucking best instrumental for Taste of Honey. Record of the year was Taste of Honey for the Grammys. Best engineering record was this. Best instrumental arrangement. It's just, dude, this won so many awards.
Yeah, and he was. I read too that he's been the only person who's won a Grammy for both being an instrumentalist and for being a vocalist. Like an instrumentalist on this record, and I think in 1969 he won a Grammy for best vocalist. The only person to ever do it.
Dang.
For what that's worth.
I think at some point the Grammys were something. They meant something that was kind of cool. Yeah. And then now they're complete trash and garbage. But
like over the last 20 years, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But like at one point the Grammys meant something. It was something to behold and admired.
Yeah. Maybe a little bit.
Same with like the Academy Awards. I think the Academy Awards held a very, very specific place, and they were something to be admired. And now it's just a fucking butthole fest.
So my favorite song on this one is A Taste of Honey.
Taste of Honey, baby, the opener.
Great.
That's my favorite one too.
Great one. I mean, just that little build up with just the single kick drum. And then that walking bass line comes in. Love the walking bass line.
So good.
And just the little thing that he does with the trumpet that he does in every song, really. But because it's on top of that walking bass line, it sounds so good.
Yeah.
Kind of like, I guess chirping is the best way to describe his style.
Yeah.
He kind of chirps on the trumpet. He doesn't play like long notes. He's like chirping.
Yeah.
That's the best way.
No, he likes it. That's what he likes to do. He likes everyone to hear his trumpet playing, but I don't think he's overly confident in like his Miles Davis trumpet playing. So I think he knows his place and he just wants to be heard, but he doesn't want to be like listened to, right? He wants to like a snippet of it, but doesn't want like a solo of it, because he doesn't really have any solos. And if he does have a solo, it's always with somebody else, or it's like a back and forth between like a saxophone or another like reed instrument or whatever it is. And I think he just playing the field, dude. Just playing the middle ground, riding the fence. Likes it.
Kind of a plain old people thing,
kind of a plain old people thing, yeah. But this is back when like plain old people thing was just, like he was the best at plain old people in '65. Foo Fighters are just plain old people 30, 40, 50 years later.
That's very, very true. I mean, this kind of music is way more complex than, even then it's not very complex, but it's more complex than a Foo Fighters song. I mean, you can't deny that. There's more nuance, more going on with these kind of songs. But at this time, this is vanilla. This is really vanilla. And that's why I feel it appealed to the masses, even though it was an instrumental.
Well, yeah. I mean, you watch like shows, right, from the 60s and 50s, and and you're like, wow, dude, that's your plot line? Okay. All right. That's fair. Okay.
But also like, but when you think about it too, 1965 when this comes out, you had already seen that kind of like Brazilian samba kind of, thing that hit in the late 50s and early 60s. And there are definitely elements of those styles on this record, but it's done in such a vanilla American kind of stripped down way that I feel like even like the most kind of conservative music listeners were able to attach themselves and feel kind of like, ooh, I'm a little ethnic. I can dance to this. I could dance to this kind of music, even though it's not like a full like samba kind of song, like really kind of Brazilian kind of song. they have this like weird kind of like, oh, I feel like I'm down in Brazil. I'm in Rio. You know, I could dance to this, even though it's not really that. Does that make sense?
No, you're right. I mean, like this whole Stan Getz and the jazz samba thing, that was like 1962. Mm-hmm. And so that's what really like introduced the United States to bossa nova music. And so that's
bossa nova. That's what I was thinking of, bossa nova. I don't know why I kept saying samba.
That's fresh off. Oh, that's the name of the album, Jazz Samba. And that's what like this album is, and her album really is coming off the coattails of that, where like this whole world of big band now is being opened up, and there's a lot of Latin influence, and so guys that were traditionally making big band music in the 40s and the 50s, and even in the 60s still, now we can have a little bit of edge to it. We can have a little bit of a Latin flair, and it's more fun and exciting and just different.
Yeah.
It's good.
It's great.
Taste of Honey is fucking fantastic. That bass line, so that guy's name is Lyle Ritz. Like I said, there's several people here that play bass on this album. Lyle Ritz is this guy. He started as a ukulele player, and that's what like his passion was. And he played the ukulele for many years. And so one time he played in like the army band because he was drafted in the Korean War, and he was stationed at some fort, whatever the fuck it is, who cares? But he was playing at a venue while he was stationed at this base, and Barney Kessel, Wrecking Crew, guitar player, played with like Julie London, and he was a talent scout at the time for Verve Records, was in the crowd watching this dude Lyle Ritz play the ukulele, and Lyle Ritz he can play a fuck ton of music or instruments, like bass guitar is what he's known for on this record, but his passion is ukulele, like I said. So Barney Kessel sees him play ukulele and he's like, holy shit, you're really fucking good at that thing. Can you play anything else? And he's like, yeah, I can play a bunch of fucking things. And so Barney Kessel hired him as a talent scout to be essentially like a Wrecking Crew, pre-Wrecking Crew for Verve Records, and be on a bunch of like standards and jazz and stuff from like the late 50s. And then when he realized that the ukulele just wasn't getting him any gigs, he transitioned to the bass, and that's how he really got into the Wrecking Crew. And then that's how he made a fuck ton of his money, is being on Taste of Honey, like this track we're talking about. He played with the Righteous Brothers, he played with the Monkees, and he was on Good Vibrations by the Beach Boys. So he made a fuck ton of money playing on that one.
No, I'm sure, yeah. And talk about like taking the biggest like tonal jump in an instrument from ukulele to bass. Like you could not go from one side of the spectrum to the other
because you think like
a stringed instrument.
And I don't even care. I've said it once, I'll say it again, dude. The bass player is the least important member of any fucking band. I don't even care. And so, like, what do? If your true love is ukulele, which is a very niche, very specific instrument that most people just don't give a fuck about. Yeah. So, like, and it's only got 4 strings. And so, what do you play? Yeah, you play the bass because it's easy to play and you can get into it. But my God, dude, this bass line, this is like fucking Matt Freeman style, dude. This is some shit Rancid would play. He constantly is walking all over that bass here.
I was thinking the Boston song. What is that fucking song called on the first record? That the breakdown in that song. What is that song? The song that the DJ sample. What? I can't even think of the DJ. Never mind. I'm just talking.
But you get it, right? Like the Matt Freeman-esque walking kind of like ska-ish reggae bass line.
Yeah. It's a great. That's the highlight of this song, and it's a great way to start the record. It instantly gets you in the mood. It's not super fast. It's not slow. It's a very kind of mid-tempo song, and it's a great opener. Absolute great opener. And there's no low moment on this record at all.
Dude, these transitions, these transitions here, right? It's just that drum beat. It's like doof, 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 doof. And then like you said, that single note, or Alpert hits that trumpet, and then we drop back into it. Like that's wild. That's
great.
That is absolutely fucking wild shit. That's punker stuff, man. It's so good.
Yeah, it really is.
And everything here is so simple. Everyone is just like either ascending or descending scales. That's all that's happening here.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward stuff. Pretty straightforward stuff. Vanilla, some might say.
Very vanilla.
Oh, it's good.
Unlike honey. Do you like honey?
I love honey, man.
Yeah.
Peanut butter and honey sandwiches.
That's gross.
Are you yoking me? That is my go-to sandwich. If I'm gonna make a sandwich, I want to make a peanut butter and honey sandwich. I'll throw in some chips in there, some Flamin' Hot Doritos maybe. some spicier nacho Doritos. Dude, that's
weird that I don't.
That's the best.
I would never like spread peanut butter in one bread and then squirt honey in the other one, but I buy the peanut butter honey mixture that Jif makes.
Why would you do that? Because then you can control the amount of honey that's on there.
Well, Jif has already done it for me.
That's
it's Jif or
but
Jiffy?
Yeah, it's Jif. J-I-F. But did you never put chips in your sandwiches?
Not my peanut butter one. I do my bologna sandwiches.
Oh, dude, the bologna sandwiches? Yeah, that's the best. bologna sandwich with a little bit of mustard.
Child. Oh,
that's
dude,
all you need.
What?
Bologna with a little bit of mustard and throw in some like Doritos.
Why are you
some
the way
Doritos?
That you are?
Dude, and no, okay. I'll even. So what's even better than that? The bologna with a little bit of mustard. You put the Doritos in there, and then you push the sandwich down so all the Doritos get crunched into smaller pieces. Oh, that's.
Yeah, you crunch them up, and it's funny because when you do that, I fucking palm it, right? So I flat hand the top of my sandwich, and so like whatever you just touched, like making that sandwich, like wiping your fucking things on your leg or closing the fridge, all that stuff is now on the top of your sandwich. But I don't give a fuck.
Man, I haven't had a bologna sandwich in probably 15 years.
Oh, dude, I have them at least probably like once every couple of weeks.
I haven't bought bologna in like 15 years. I haven't bought it.
I mean, why would you?
I love
right?
it though.
Yeah,
I love it, but I stick with my peanut butter and honey. Love that shit.
It's kind of funny how like bologna is like a standard for kids food, and like all kids like bologna, but really it's fucking disgusting.
It's no different than eating a hot dog. It's just
and hot dogs are fucking disgusting.
Hot dogs are delicious. I don't give a fuck.
I eat hot dogs. I eat hot dogs. That's it.
Yeah. Usually a 4th of July, but now that I don't really do 4th of July because you moved to Arizona.
And you hate America. That's fine.
And I hate America. Yeah, stupid. But no, I'll go to Costco. I'll get a hot dog. Oh, man, dude.
Every time I go to Sam's Club, I always get a hot dog and a pizza. Every single time.
You're wild getting both?
Dang. I mean, like I do like hot dog and bologna, but I'm under no impression that they're not fucking disgusting.
Well, yeah, they're disgusting, but I don't care. They're delicious. I don't give a fuck. I mean, when you think about honey is disgusting too. It's just like fucking bee shit. Yeah, bee barf, bee shit. Like, that's just as disgusting.
I mean, that's why I don't eat eggs. I don't eat eggs. It's just like chicken menstruations and shit. It's fucking nasty.
Everything we eat is disgusting when you really think about it. That is true. So it's like, who cares if hot dogs are disgusting? They taste delicious.
I was even talking about friend of the pod, Nick. He works at a fishing resort in Wisconsin, where they catch like fish, and they will like it's a resort. People go there and they pay money and they can stay there and fish, but they can pay extra money and he'll clean the fish, he'll like gut the fish, he'll scale the fish, and he'll like cook it for you if you want, or just put it on ice or whatever you want. Mm-hmm. And I was like, dude, like, to be honest, if like the world ended and I had to like hunt my food and kill animals and like skin them and shit, I'd probably just go vegan. I really would. Like I just don't think I have it in me. I would just grow a lot of fucking, and I'm a pretty good fucking gardener, to be honest. Like I really am. And so I would just go vegan.
I think if it were to come down to that, I think you would change your attitude about it.
Like even when I watch those fucking like those period or those pieces, right? Like about Tyson chicken and stuff like that. I don't eat chicken for like weeks, months even. Yeah,
that's messed up, and you know, I just try to ignore it. As fucked up as it is, I just try to ignore it.
What are you supposed to do? Like, how are you supposed to get your chicken? Yeah. Like, I'm not like, okay, I go to my local butcher and he has like grass fed, free range chickens, and he names all the pigs, and he slaughters the pigs humanely, and they have a great life. But it's like $18 a pound for bacon. Like, bro, I go through a pound of bacon in like 3 days here. I don't fucking $18. I don't fucking $45 a week to spend on bacon. That's fucking outrageous. I'm not made of money here, guy. Okay, I need my $2.99 pound of bacon from Oscar Mayer sometimes. That's what this family calls for. We eat a lot of food. There's fucking 5 of us living here.
Yep, that's true.
Whatever.
You gotta have your Chef Boyardee, right? Your ravioli.
SpaghettiOs, you mean?
Yeah, SpaghettiOs. Yeah, sorry. I still can't believe you eat that shit. That is like, I don't even care that it's cheap and like that kind of stuff. It just tastes so bad. SpaghettiOs are just garbage. That is garbage.
True for me. That is true. That's like 3 a.m. junk food. Like,
that's
fuck.
comfort.
Domino's,
that is your comfort food.
Domino's is closed. Fuck. Like, can anybody drive? No. Fuck. All right. Do we have anything in the freezer? Like, can I just microwave like a Hot Pocket? No. Fuck. All right. SpaghettiOs. I'm going to bed. That's what that is.
It's so disgusting.
I'm not happy about it.
I never even liked it when I was a kid. I never enjoyed that.
Well, you're a monster as a kid, so.
That's true. That's true too.
Anyway.
Nasty. 0-2. All right, so what else we got on this record? What other bangers do you have? What other songs do you want to talk about since there are no lyrics to talk about?
I mean, like, Taste of Honey we did. Tangerine we should touch upon. Whipped Cream, the title track, we should touch upon. Lollipops and Rainbows we should touch upon.
I like all the titles of the songs too. They're all kind of like food related, but I don't know. It's good. I like the titles of the songs.
They are all food related.
Most of them are, yeah. Most of them.
So
I didn't notice that until
Love
today
Potion,
when I did my notes.
I noticed that right now. Love Potion number 9 is the only thing that's not food related.
Same with Bittersweet Samba. I guess
bittersweet.
No.
There are two flavors, right? Two taste things.
I guess so. Yeah, I guess so.
That's got to be intentional.
Garbanzo, lemon, butterball.
And like ladyfingers are a food, right? Isn't that like a food item?
Is it? I don't know. Like chicken fingers, chicken tenders?
No, like ladyfingers are like a pastry. It's like a fucking.
Is it?
Yeah, it's like they look like fingers. They look like maple bars, but like smaller.
Fingers, food. Let's see here. You're right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what they are though.
I think they're like pastries, like a
they are
cracker or something, but like softer than a cracker.
Yeah, it looks like it. I still can't really figure out what's in them or what they are.
It's probably a European thing, honestly.
Probably. It's probably some Britland shit.
It probably is a Britland fucking thing. Ladyfingers.
It says that, I don't know. It's just like, it's made with flour, egg whites, egg yolks, sugar, and powdered sugar. Those are the main ingredients.
It's a cookie.
So it is, it's a
cookie.
Soft cookie. It's a biscuit, some say. Yeah,
it says
there's a Wikipedia for it. Also, they're called ladyfingers, or in the British English, sponge fingers.
Sponge fingers?
Sponge fingers, yeah. A low-density, dry, egg-based, sweet sponge cake biscuit, roughly shaped like large fingers.
Oh, so it's like a sponge cake.
I guess so, yeah.
Oh.
Have you had that? Have you had it before?
A ladyfinger? No, I've had sponge cake.
I've had sponge cake too. Let's see.
I just know ladyfingers are a thing because like my mom said something about ladyfingers in recent history. And I was like, what the fuck are you saying? She said, ladyfingers, like the little pastry or the whatever it is. Like, that's not a thing.
They look like a thinner, longer Twinkie.
They're like maple bars, right?
No, they don't look. No, they look more like a Twinkie. Like if you're if a Twinkie was like Silly Putty and like you stretch it out, that's what it looks like.
Well, that's a maple bar. That's fine though.
That's not. Well, no, because it doesn't have like the maple coating or frosting on top.
But it's elongated pastry treat.
But it doesn't look like. No, it doesn't look like a donut bar, like a donut chocolate or maple bar. It doesn't look like that.
I'd say chocolate bar. It's a maple bar.
They're the same thing, just different flavors. They're designed the same way, but they're different flavors. So they're not the same thing, or they are the same thing, kind of.
You flip flopping here.
I know. I'm all over the place. We're talking about ladyfingers here. Come on.
It's true. That's because there's not a whole lot to talk about with this album, so we're trying our best to. Well, whatever. Let's move on. Tangerine. Yeah. You like Tangerine?
It's my 4B. My 4B.
Tangerine's
Ladyfingers
solid.
Is my 7. Tangerine's my 4.
Okay. Tangerine's my 2B. Kind of like a 3B, okay. 2B. It's good.
It's a slower jam.
It is definitely a slower jam. More like traditional guitar style picking there. Lionel Ritz is also playing the bass again, and he's still super busy. Julius Wechter on marimba. He's the one that went on to do the Baja Marimba band. But then we get like Russell Bridges, and I want to talk about Russell Bridges because Russell Bridges is on piano here, and he has had a fantastic solo career as Leon Russell. Like his solo career, Leon Russell. I didn't know that until this week, and we get so much fucking Leon Russell in our store. And it's always like $3, $5 at the most. And I've never listened to any of his records. And then fucking this week, I was like, oh, this guy Russell Bridges has his own like wiki page. Let me see who that is. And then it clicked like, holy shit, that's fucking Leon Russell. After he did all this stuff with the Wrecking Crew, he went on to have a wildly successful solo career.
Man, have you looked him up? Did you see a picture of him?
Of Leon Russell?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like fucking Santa Claus, man.
He's pretty wild. He's a lot of makeup. Yeah, a lot of stuff.
Dude, that like, beard and that white beard and hair.
If you start, kids, you go shopping enough in the bargain bins. So if you click on some of his records, you recognize a lot of those covers. Like you've seen these before. These are $3, $5 at the most records. And now I kind of want to like get into them because his piano solo here is super cool. It's fucking slow. It's dramatic. It's single notes, but it's sort of like playing around with that scale. Again, just keep it basic, but keep it interesting. And that's what like the Wrecking Crew did. Keep it basic. Keep it interesting. That's it.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Keep it simple. Kiss me.
Yes.
Keep it simple, stupid me.
Well, I don't want to do that. But
it was an acronym, so don't be weird about it.
Well, I'm not.
With Tangerine, it was good.
It is really good. What? Also, this is where you could really hear like he's using a stand-up bass. He's not using a normal electric bass on this one. And I'm kind of a sucker for a stand-up bass. I do love the stand-up bass. And the overall, the whole bass line is killer as well. But overall, the song has a really cool, really good exotica feel to it. It's an underlying thing, like kind of going back to what I was saying earlier. Like they're taking what was popular in the late 50s and early 60s and sprinkling that into all of these songs. And this is one of those examples where there's a lot of exotica going on here. There's 2 or 3 other songs that have that kind of feel to it as well, but that's because of the marimba. That's really what it is. But you definitely hear it here. And then also, exotica is more like a mid-tempo kind of slower style anyway, that lounge jazz thing.
Yeah.
And that's where this song sits. Tangerine. It's a great song. It really is.
It's pretty good.
And from what I recall, this is the only song that has vocals on it. There are no lyrics. It's just more like harmonizing or singing. Yeah, just singing the harmony. That's what or singing the melody. I'm sorry. That's all it is.
Yeah.
But no actual lyrics. But it's a good song. I do dig it.
It's a banger.
But yeah, Whipped Cream, that's my 2B. I do like that one a lot. The title track. I think this is the most popular song on the record, the title track. That trumpet part, that main melody, that is played on just game shows and just it's in popular culture. The popular culture zeitgeist. That's really what that part is. And I think it was on the popular show The Dating Game, or was that maybe Spanish Flea? One of the 2 songs were on
one of the 2 songs.
Show. I don't remember exactly which one. But yeah, I mean the song's all over the place. But
yeah,
it's a good song
this
too.
This is a banger for me. Certified banger, absolutely. Alpert plays those shirt trumpet bursts that we talked about. But like here we also we also get the contrast of the saxophone on the offbeat, right? With the piano, and then it gets into this like sort of battle, this back and forth thing. And then we got this guy, Pete Jolly, Mr. Pete Jolly. He's the one that playing the piano here. And then Karaoke on bass, because I did want to mention her constantly, because she's super prolific. And if you go to her wiki page and see what she's done, again, like top 2 most prolific bass players of all time. Like Ron Carter just played on so much jazz, and then Karaoke, just like the resident bass player for the Wrecking Crew, for just thousands, not hundreds, but thousands of recordings. And when you get to like that Omar level of things, like you can't be great on everything. There has to be like 90% of that shit has to just be generic drivel, but it's still impressive.
Looking up a lot of these people too, dude, these people are still alive, but they're like old as fuck. Like Carol Kay, she's 88. Herb Alpert, I think, is 89. All these people are really fucking old, but they're still alive. Dude. That's age, dude.
I think it is interesting. Like I don't know, the decade difference. I feel like when we get old and we look back on, really for us is the 2000s. Like the 90s, we don't really remember the 90s that much.
Yeah.
Except for the late 90s. But the 2000s, we distinctly remember for sure the 10s, the 20s. But like, I don't know. Is it the same as these guys remember in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s?
Yeah. It would have to be.
Yeah, but we got stupid decades. They got cool decades.
I mean, every generation can say that their decade was the coolest or the best.
Well,
I think you're right. I think we had the 2 best decades, the 90s and the 2000s. That was the best. I mean, it was the most transitional. It was the most we were exposed to the most.
I've said it before, and I'll say it. I will always say that our age group is like the greatest age group that has ever existed for mankind. But like, I don't know, man. I would have liked to seen like even like the 40s. That'd been cool.
Like post World War, like maybe like 1948, 1949, 1950, like right after the war. I would have liked to seen like right before the war, because like cool shit was still coming out like as the war was happening. But right before the war, we were still coming out of the Great Depression. There was a lot of poverty, a lot of bullshit going on back then. Like, it's shitty right now. Yeah, the economy's shitty right now, but back then people had way less than we do now. Like but if you look at post World War II, the economy was thriving. People, it was literally the American dream. That's where that whole motto came from. Like, I feel like experiencing like between 1949 and like 1955 or 56 is like the sweet spot, like the true American dream sweet spot. That would be like a cool, like if we were ever to go back in time, that would be another really cool spot to go to. But that's just.
Well, I mean, I don't want to like go back to these things. I just want to.
Well, I mean, not going back, but like,
I want to look. I want to just
like visiting. Yeah, let's just say like if we were able to visit, just be like a fly on the wall or be invisible, and just kind of see the day-to-day lives. Like, it would be cool to go back during that kind of sweet spot there.
Because even record labels. I can't remember what the record label was, because I was kind of like researching record labels here at this point on the A&M thing. But one record label like dumped all of their England stock pre-war because the record label was signing a bunch of bands and a bunch of artists that were like anti-German. And the record label thought that it was going to piss off Hitler and cause that record stock to like tank, and it fucking did.
Oh,
and so
wow.
like even like music was getting political, and like that, I thought that was super interesting. And then like even Charlie Chaplin, right? Like he released like one of his first like spoken word things that he released,
like the greatest speech
on his own. Yeah, well, it was like an anti-Hitler thing. He made fun of Hitler the whole time, and the last 5 minutes of his movie was just like him pleading for no war, like pre-World War II. And like everybody fucking made fun of him and hated it, but like it exists and it's there and he did it, and that's kind of ballsy, I guess. I don't know.
Well, back
I don't know
then,
a lot about it.
But I mean, even when going back to like the early 30s, when the Nazi Party was coming up in Germany, there were a lot of sympathizers here in the United States. Like you read about, Madison Square Garden was selling out to Nazi rallies. Like people here in the United States were holding Nazi rallies and selling out that fucking venue. It was a big thing back then. And it wasn't really frowned upon, especially not like how it is now, because, now that we know about the Holocaust and things like that, back in the early 30s, I mean, that whole ideology was very kind of different. It was radical, yeah, but it wasn't as radical as what we saw post World War II or late World War II.
It was Decca Records. So like Decca Records is a UK, a British label, but like prior to like late 30s, prior to World War II, they sold their American, I don't know,
subsidiary
in anticipation of a war, and it happened. So that's kind of interesting, right? But I don't know. That's interesting to think that these executives, and I think that anybody born before me is just dumber than me, and so it's interesting
that's
to think.
True though.
I really do think that, yes, that is true. So,
You're an idiot.
So it's funny it's fun to think that in like
I'm
the 30s,
only like 2 months older than you.
Therefore, 2 months dumber than me. That's fine.
You're so dumb.
It's fun to think that like in the 30s, people could anticipate fucking war, right? Because their bottom dollar was about to be affected. And so they anticipate war and sell things to benefit them financially and then in the long term. And Decca Records, I mean, they are now owned by UMG, so like whatever that's worth. But
I think everybody's kind of owned by UMG, like big record label wise.
Dude, and that was one of the big things for like A&M too. Like Herb Alpert and Jerry Moss both like spoke out against that. Like for decades and decades until like they finally did sell out. They said, yeah, dude, we are headed towards a society where like all music is controlled by 4 fucking conglomerates. And they said that shit like the 80s.
When they were already seeing that happen with other other media, you know, with film and especially TV, when you only have 3 main networks, you know, public networks that literally control everything. The FCC controlled everything, and you know, it's just, of course, I mean, it was bound to happen.
And it really
and
leads
it just keeps
to
getting worse.
And it leads to less artistry. And Herb Alpert and Jerry Moss were both firm advocates of the less options there are, the less artistry there's going to be. Because, like Garth Brooks, prime example, he was shopping for record labels. Nobody fucking wanted him. Everyone thought, like, yeah, you ain't nothing. You ain't nothing. And then finally somebody took a chance on him. And, you know, it changed the course of like country music history. Good or bad, whatever, but changed it.
One of the best-selling, if not the best-selling artist of all time.
He could be the best-selling artist of all fucking time.
I think he is. Either him or Michael Jackson are.
Record labels passed on him, and that's what happens. And when you only got 4 of them, right, instead of like 400 of them, you only got 4 of them, it's going to lead to a lot of just cookie-cutter, boring, uninspired music.
Yeah, you're right.
And after the death of A&M, man, I just where is music now? And it's just, maybe this is our old guy thing coming into play and talking about how music's not as good as it used to be when I was a kid. But it's kind of objectively not. It really isn't.
It's not, because like, yes, we have this like vast library of music that we could all search out. But the majority of people don't search it out. Most people still rely on, now it's called algorithms and what, you know, was pushed on you on various social media apps. But I mean, the idea is still there. Like, you're still being pushed on Doja Cat, on Harry Styles, on various other pop artists, because that's what the algorithm is pushing. That's what these modern day record labels and corporations, they have entire fucking divisions and teams that search out what is going to sell, what is going to be popular, and that's what they fucking push. That's why some of these artists are so enormous right now. But we really do have like almost an infinite amount, not an almost, but we have such a vast library of music that we could choose from, but most people don't search it out. We still fall back on the record labels or the algorithm or the corporation, whatever it may be. I think that's just human nature. You see it with other media too, with movies and TV shows. Like we watch whatever's trending at the time. Like right now, like what's the real popular movie that's trending on the like Netflix and stuff? It's Saltburn. Like everybody's fucking talking about Saltburn because like they picked up on that. Then they put a ton of money into the advertising and throwing it into the algorithms on TikTok and Instagram, and everybody's talking about that right now. That's how sponsored ads work on social media too. Like if something starts to like kind of catch fire, that's when you start sponsoring that content and it just expands and blows and blows and blows up. I mean, that's how all these sponsored ads work.
That's how advertising works, right? If you're a business and even like me in a record store, we see one of our posts is blowing up and getting way more interaction than all of other posts. What do? We try to mimic that post. We do it again.
Or you throw money at that particular post and expand and make that audience grow.
That is literally what I fucking hate. What we hate too. About the world, what we hate about like artistry, what we hate about music, what we hate about the entertainment industry. But like there's a give and take, right? There's like you got to make money, got to eat, but at the same time, like I want to be unique, I want to be different. And I think for the longest time, like A&M was the label to go to if you wanted to do whatever the fuck you wanted to do.
I think so too.
In the 60s, like the 70s, if you wanted to, if you were a hard rock band and you wanted to put out a jazz funk album, sign with A&M. They don't give a shit what you do as long as you're happy doing it.
Yeah.
And I think because there was so much, I mean, that was like the Lost Leader thing with Reprise. Mm-hmm. They have like an inner sleeve in their records saying like Lost Leaders, like some of these groups that they signed supposedly just because they liked music and they don't give a fuck if they don't make any money. They don't care. But like, nah, I don't know. I hear a lot of, I hear a lot of bullshit that comes into my store with some of these fucking people pretending they got bands. You should listen to my band. I'm in a band. Here it is. And I respect you for trying, but I think I'm not alone in this. But like art is just, it's not a career, dude. It's not a career. It's art. If you want a career, you do something. You contribute. Contributing art is contributing art that is meaningful, that is lasting. That is good. I think maybe that's a bonus.
The better way of putting it, art is not the career, but the way you're able to market it, that's the career. Because the art can be amazing and beautiful and whatever in any format, but if you're not able to get it out to the masses and market it the correct way, it's not going to go anywhere. I mean, I think that's what it comes down to.
That's true. That's true. I mean,
what do we know?
Well, I know everything, and if you don't, if you were born before me, then you know nothing compared to what I know. Okay. And if you're born after me, then you also know nothing compared to what I know. But
so unless you were born on that particular date at that time, you know nothing.
You ever think about how many people were born at the exact moment you were born?
I have thought about that.
And what does it even mean when you were born? Like, when are you born? Like, when you take your first breath, when your eyeballs are breached, when your feet come out? Like, at what point?
I would say your first breath.
Do babies come out head first or feet first?
They can come out either way.
But which one's the fucked up way?
The feet first is the fucked up way.
Yeah, so
go head first.
All right. I don't know. I was not mentally present in that fucking delivery room. That was just a wild time in there. Holy shit.
Sensory overload.
Dude, sensory overload to the max. Dude, nothing should be losing that much blood and not dying. That's just insane. Fuck.
That much blood.
Oh my God, dude. You get like a nosebleed, you're like, oh, it's a lot of blood. I think I might die. Yeah. Okay.
I can't imagine like working like labor and delivery like that.
Why would you want to? And who cleans those rooms?
My sister does that. She's labor and delivery. She's in the room when they.
Your sister sees more blood in one day than most people do their entire fucking life.
Oh, yeah, that you're probably right. Yeah.
Dude, there's so much blood in your body that it just gets wasted. It's all wasted. This is where we're at now. We're just talking about like fucking.
Yeah, what are we talking about?
Babies getting born, dude.
Speaking of babies, let's get into the artwork.
Yeah, I've been touched upon the artwork.
The artwork is iconic, and the connection is that Dolores Erickson was the model on the cover art, and she was actually 3 months pregnant when they shot this. If nobody's seen this art, the album artwork, go look it up. I almost can guarantee that you've seen it at some point in your life.
If you listen to this podcast, you've seen this artwork.
Yeah, definitely. The colors, all that green, it's very, very 60s. Very that color green is so identifiable of that decade, that era. And she's covered in whipped cream, but it was actually shaving cream because whipped cream would have just melted under the light, so they did shaving cream because it doesn't melt.
But she wasn't naked, and her fingers were whipped cream.
Mm-hmm. Oh, were they? Okay, I didn't know that.
Her fingers were whipped cream because she's like sucking on her fingers. And her head was whipped cream too.
Yeah. And technically she wasn't naked. She was wearing things underneath it, but the shaving cream covered it.
But yeah, 1965. Even Herb Alpert was like, dude, I don't know if we can release this shit. This is wild. This is too risque. We can't do this.
Yeah. And then I guess there were a few other photos that were released like way out, like years and years after, because they were too risque. And I saw those, the alternate photos, and it's just like, that's it? Really?
Yeah, not much more than this.
Yeah, not at all. Like you can maybe see a little bit more of an outline of a boob, but that's about it.
Dude, if this girl could see like the WAP artwork for what's the girl's name?
Like Nicki Minaj
the Stallion, and then I think it's Nicki Minaj. Yeah, the WAP fucking
Cardi
artwork.
B.
Yeah. Cardi B. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, this is nothing. But this did cause issues. This did cause problems.
Also, just the font that they use too. It's very kind of like groovy, like Austin Powers, like over the top, kind of groovy looking.
See, I always thought like the Herb Alpert Tijuana Brass font was very, like, it defined an era rather than supported an era. Like, I think it defined that era. I think it defined that A&M thing. I think it defined that sound, that sort of, let's just churn out a fuck ton of just easy jazz standards like we just talked about for this whole hour and a half thing here. I think it just defined that thing rather than supplemented. And the whole Tijuana Brass thing, like Tijuana Brass did not exist. Tijuana Brass was just Herb Alpert, and just sounded cool because it gave a little ethnicity to an otherwise Jewish kid from USC. And then because he got so popular, he had to hire a Tijuana Brass to go on tour with him. Because again, the Wrecking Crew are studio musicians. They don't go on tour. They get their paycheck and they go home. Best gig in the fucking world. So he had to like actually make a Tijuana Brass and then go on tour. And that's how like Julius Wechter, who merged off and made his Baja Marima band, which that first record is so fucking good.
It is good.
I think you have it. Do you have it?
Yes, I do.
I think at some point, like I gave it to you, I made you get it. I told you to buy it.
I have 3. I have to double check. I have 3 Baja or maybe 2. I think I've purged 2 or 3 of them, but I think I have 2 left.
Yeah, that first one's fucking good. It's just marimba through and through, vibraphones all through it. It's just really good.
Shit. Sucker for that.
It's good.
Also, what it's cool about the artwork too is that like the A&M logo, it's like right up front. Like normally when you see like a record label logo, it's in the bottom corner, or maybe on the back.
Yeah,
it's kind of hidden, but this is like right below the title of the record, and it's a fairly big logo, and that's kind of how they were on a lot of the Herb Alpert records too. It was just it was bigger than most labels put them on. Wait,
and that's
right? I don't know.
No, you're right. You're right. A lot of like, especially like the big labels, the labels that already were not independent, right? Atlantic, for instance. Like it's hard to look at Zeppelin records and then find the Atlantic like fucking label on there. It's tough. It's hidden. It's buried. But like they're proud of it.
The label. Yeah.
Herb Alpert's like proud of this shit. Jerry Moss, they're proud of this shit, and they put it right there in the front. They don't give a fuck. And
it is his record. I mean, this is his record, his label. I mean, why wouldn't he promote it? Honestly,
did you know too that A&M was the first? They were the first people to sue Napster.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, so like
I didn't read
they
that.
always make fun of Metallica and Lars for getting all pissy at Napster. No, A&M were the first person to actually They were the first entity to come out and officially file a suit against Napster, and like everything that stemmed from Napster's downfall stemmed from A&M.
No shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they were the ones to first file suit and then cause the entire downfall. And they didn't like sue Napster for any malicious thing. They were just like, yo, dude, our artists need money. And it wasn't like I need money. It was like, no, our artists need like representation. Our artists need money. And so
but then also how kind of, when it comes to labels and labels paying artists, how much better were A&M compared to the other big companies? Were they really paying the artists that well?
It wasn't about paying well. It was about not taking things from the artists. It was about not taking their master tapes. It was about not taking like their artistry. It was about not taking what makes an artist an artist.
I know, but I think in the end it was more down to the label not making money. I don't think it was the artist was just kind of saying that the artists are losing money. It was more of like a save face, a facade kind of thing. I think they were looking more at the company's bottom line, which, that's fine. Whatever. It's a company. Yeah. Now I'm curious, was this before or after A&M sold?
I think they sold. No, this was after, because they already sold once.
Well, they sold in, I'm sorry. Yeah. They sold in 89.
Yeah.
But then they went defunct in 99. I believe it was 99.
Well, they sold to Seagram's at some point.
That's right, yeah.
Or like Polygram. Polygram was the first one to buy it, and that was like late 80s.
That was 89.
Yeah. And they sold to Seagram's, and that was like late 90s.
So in the end, Herb Alpert and Jerry Moss had nothing to do with the lawsuit.
Yeah.
At that point, it was already in the hands of a big conglomerate. So it's like, that makes more sense.
But like Herb Alpert and Jerry Moss did have stake in the company. They still had pull, right? If they said
some
something,
shares in it, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know.
But they probably had no control over the day-to-day or, artist or, any sort of artist relations. But
this is still back in a time where if you founded a company and you sold that company, and if that company did something fucking ridiculous and stupid, you could still come out and say, no, dude, the company that I just sold did something fucking dumb. And the company would have to say, like, oh, yeah, they're right. We have to respect our elders and we will not do what our elder thinks we're going to do. Like nowadays, nobody will give a fuck. If you sold your company, you've lost all rights.
That's
but
true.
Like prior to like
Star
2015, 2010, like original owners still had like their word meant something.
Yeah.
Their word meant something.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But yeah, they were the first ones to sue Napster. Look at that.
That's actually really, really, really interesting. I did not read that at all. But.
And then the other half, like, so there's two halves of Napster. One of the half of Napster like went on to fully invest in fucking Spotify, because he really did believe that like file sharing was the wave of the future and it's going to happen regardless. How can we get it? How can we pay?
But
artists?
that wasn't the main guy, Sean. What was it? Sean something? Sean Mullins? No, that's a skater, right?
Sean Rodney Mullins is a skater. But I think both of the guys' names are Sean and Napster, actually, now that I'm thinking about
but it wasn't the main guy who got like all the heat, who was on like the VMAs.
Yeah, no, it wasn't that guy. It was the other guy. It was the other guy who stayed out of the spotlight. And the other guy is actually still a billionaire, and he donates a fuck ton of money to charity, and he's actually a really cool dude. And he funded Spotify in the beginning through Facebook because he wanted like people to have like affordable music. Yeah. So I don't know too much about him, but like, and then the other guy is just a guy that was in MTV and cool guy and wore Metallica t-shirts at the VMAs and shit. Remember that shit? You wore that Metallica shirt?
I do remember that, yeah. I do remember that.
And then like, where'd you get that shirt? He's like, well, I borrowed it. I'm like, oh, you bro,
I know.
What are you doing,
It was so cucky.
Show some class, bro. Come on.
And then that same VMAs, like Lars Ulrich did that little skit with like Marlon Wayans, remember? Where he goes into like a bedroom and Marlon Wayans like downloading music and he starts like taking his stuff off the wall.
Yeah, ripping like, posters. No, I'm just borrowing it. Like, come on, dude.
So dumb, man. So dumb.
Like imagine a grown ass man going to like someone's fucking bedroom, like a child's bedroom. Get the fuck
40-year-old man doing that. Marlon Wayans was also like a grown ass man too, but I think he was like playing like a college kid, some dumb shit like that. But anyway,
that's about all I got, kid. That's about all I got. To be honest,
same here. There's not a whole lot to talk about musically, because every song is a cover, but we've pretty much talked about everything else, all the extracurriculars and things like that. So let's give our final thoughts. Rate the record based off of our world famous 3-point rating system, where 3 is a perfect album, 2 is a good album you're going to continue to listen to it, 1 is a bad album but give it a shot, and 0 is the worst thing you've ever heard. So what do you got, Jeff? Go.
It's kind of funny because had we not started collecting records, I don't know if we ever would have like got really into this, right? I just don't know. Maybe we would have. I don't know. I don't think we would have. Like, why would we?
I don't think so.
Like, why would we? This is silly. This is stupid.
Yeah.
But as a record label, like this has to be one of the best of all time. Like this has to be like top 5, like GOAT record labels, just from what they did, from what they started with to what they achieved, to how they ended up, to what they did for music, to what they did for society, to what they did for like movies. And then we kind of ventured off a little bit into that. But like Herb Alpert is just dude was a fucking genius. Just slayed the game. Absolutely slayed the game. So I don't know. But the music's not, as far as like jazz goes. What we got?
I was just thinking about the Wedding Crasher scene with when he's playing tennis. You know what I'm talking about? When he's talking to Bradley Cooper on the phone. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
about being a genius.
Yeah. I'm
not gonna say the word, but anyway, continue.
Is that a bad word? Is that?
I don't know if it is. I don't know.
Do we say like are things bad words now, or what do we say? Like are they problematic words?
Problematic, yeah.
Problematic.
Do you know problematic needs to go on the no list? I hate that word. I hate
it. It's a good.
I hate it.
It's a good descriptor to like figure out what something actually, if something is actually problematic, but it's overused in a way that just makes people feel dumb for asking questions.
Yes,
I think.
Yes, agreed.
I get it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that specific word is
a WAP genius. That's what he says.
Problematic. I don't know.
What he says
I don't know if that word is problematic or a bad word or not. I've actually never even heard the fucking word until we watched the movie. But I can't stop laughing at it because it's hilarious.
Yeah. Sorry.
Anyway,
continue.
Continue the joke.
Went off the rails.
Anyway, this record's good. I don't think it's perfect. I don't think everything on here is blowing my mind as far as like the jazz standards go.
Yeah.
A lot of these songs we've heard, like Taste of Honey, right? Martin Denny did it better. So
he did. Yeah.
But like this is still something special. And when you like to truly appreciate this, you have to have read a little bit about it, understand the times, and just kind of get into the mind of Mr. Herb Alpert and Jerry Moss. So I don't think this is a perfect record, but I do think this is a solid like 2.25.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for the times, and if you take in all the extracurriculars, I think like Herb Alpert should be going down in like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, should be going down in like the Jazz Hall of Fame, should be going down in the history books as one of like the coolest like musicians of all time, because he really is. Mm-hmm. Jerry Moss also was.
So 2.25 for you on Whipped Cream, kind of starting the same way you did. I would have never listened to this, probably would have never listened to this record had it not been for collecting the vinyl, much like Martin Denny. I never would have gotten into Martin Denny had it not been for the vinyl. And we all know how that's gone, you know.
Still going.
Yeah, that's true. It is still going. I haven't caught them all yet. It's like Pokemon, man. Got to catch them all.
Except like this is more difficult than catching all the Pokemon.
I know. Well, technically, I could cheat and I could use like a code and just go buy them on Discogs.
That's true.
Be the equivalent of using a code on Game Boy. Anyway, yeah, I think this is a great record. It really appeals to the masses. It has the flair. Some of the little the flair of the flares of, what am I trying to say?
Flares.
The flares or the just the little exotica, the exotica stuff here, the bossa nova stuff, just kind of sprinkled in there with normal jazz kind of song, jazz standards. Wasn't doing anything. I don't think musically he wasn't doing anything revolutionary. He was just doing something that appealed to the masses, and that in itself is genius. It really was, because nobody was doing it to this extent. He was the most vanilla of the vanilla, but he was the first one to do it, and he did it so well. And yeah, we bring in the extracurriculars with A&M Records, the album artwork, which was very risque for the time, but for whatever reason, it didn't get as much heat as most would think. Like, which is weird. Like, it really was a risque album cover, but it did a lot of unique things, a lot of important things for the industry, and overall, though, I'll give it a 2.25, maybe a 2 out of 3. The songs are great. It's a fun listen. It's only 28 minutes, and it's far from perfect. Far from perfect. So 2.25, maybe a 2 if I'm a little bit moody, not feeling good that day, have a tummy ache. I'll give it
always
a 2.
Moody, but okay.
Well, that's not true. But yeah, so 2.25 for each of us, and I don't know. I got nothing else on this one. You got anything?
That's it. That's all.
All right. Thank you all for listening. Go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, give us 5 stars. Tell all your friends. Keep listening. And that's it. That's all.
Damn, I had nothing.